A long time ago, I remember I remember when the whole progressive thing started. First as a radio thing on Blue State Radio, Air America is what they called it. This is when the former Saturday Night Live guy hadn't become a senator yet. Forgetting his name. Um, so. Norm was better. Norm was better, buddy. Anyway, Al Franken. That's it. Yeah, Norm's funnier. Anyway, so the thing that I was thinking about was that the progressives they kept on with this use of the term progressive, that and that there's now this acceptance again of this term progress, and this is literally just another offshoot of the Democrats. It's like the Democrats always have sort of this three-headed monster of their party. One are the syndicates, so the unions that historically they control, that because of laws to protect government workers, the government syndicates are inordinately powerful. They learned this lesson especially from the early social movement of socialism, and their particular that you see the progressives and the fascists, they were kind of on the same side. In the early 20th, the 1920s, 1930s, they all admired each other. The Nazis admired the progressives because of their embrace of eugenics and their embrace of sort of this idea that the future would be segregation. So that's why when people talk about redlining, I keep bringing up redlining as a Democratic City thing, because that's where that comes from. You see, Republicans are these people who are like, hey, and they point to the Constitution, and they keep pointing at it and looking grim and shaking their head and shaking the Constitution. And the Democrats are like, stop me. But there's no longer Democratic men who are like that. There's simply not men who are now these men who will go and like raise a part of town, because the Republican got the local judgeship or something like that. But that is how the Democrats have pretty much always have been. Now, being that I was a Democrat and that I knew this about the history of the Democrats, but only a bit, it was one of these things. I was just kind of like, yeah, it's this kind of, everybody was kind of a little crazier in the past, and I didn't really realize that this did not apply to the Republicans in any way, shape, or form in the same way. But the progressives is one of the key things about the progressive movement, and this is something about mass movements. Socialism is this contiguous mass movement, and it just likes to rename itself. Now I think they're calling it stakeholder capitalism, possibly, or was it resource-driven economy or something? There's these various ways they're constantly trying to rejigger this way that everybody has to share, and most importantly, that there's a group of kind of intellectuals and artists that are allowed to intellectual and artist semi-professionally or professionally, that there's some way that there's a public coffer for that. So like right now, the universities are fundamentally funding the progressive / proto-communist dictators, and it's a little club of them, and that without the public dole, without these universities, they starve. This is a big part of why these people, they're going to get very, very angry through 2024. They're going to be very angry through 2024. And the main reason why is because more and more private universities are going to close, and more public universities are going to start shutting down programs that are not, that they in no way, shape, or form are really a draw. And this is going to mean the programs that are the, genital studies programs and the kinky sex position ology programs and stuff like that. And we're not crazy. It's you normal people ology class. All of that's all going to go. Because people really don't want to take those classes. They know they don't. They know, and they know it's mostly garbage. It's mostly social theory that's not rooted in anything other than just being nice to people. But being nice to people who are extremely thin-skinned is what most of those kinds of classes are now. They don't get you into your career, and now there's the comparisons already starting to happen that everyone's starting to understand. If you were to go to a trade school and you were to learn how to use construction equipment within 5 years of you leaving your program, compared to almost anybody with this, the average bachelor's, the average master's, it's going to take that. You're going to be ahead. You're going to have down payment on a house money if you hustle. The other side of it, the degreed person, now every week this becomes harder and harder by stat to say that it's going to pay off. And that's it. There's no way back from that. That it's starting, these degrees are starting to become harder and harder to determine their value. While trades, that value stays relatively stable in the market. At least in our nation. The intellectuals are not valuable. And I know there's all these artsy fart hippie dips who are like, oh, can you believe this? Intellectuals, eh. And it's like, yeah, people who just sit around reading books are not necessarily valuable. It's what do they do for others that's valuable. And which, it's always interesting when you break it down to that. What do you do for others that's valuable? Like they hold it valuable, so they give you something that they like, that in exchange. And I like that that's never how people come at it, and that the socialists and progressives won't deal with that. That's what that is. You are worth something, and your time is worth something to somebody else, so they give you something of value. Yeah, I just kind of keep liking that they don't want to really deal with that's the thing. That's the thing about the progressives. Like all things leftist centered, it's just slippery and slippery. It's the slippery do-gooders.